Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tearing down that old one-size-fits-all stereotype of introversion to uncover the four completely unique dimensions that actually drive how different introverts experience the world. If you've ever felt like the standard definition of an introvert just didn't quite capture the whole picture for you or someone you know, you are in exactly the right place.
We've got a great roadmap for today. We'll start by tackling the classic introvert stereotype, then compare social versus anxious introverts. After that, we'll dive into thinking and restrained introverts, stack them all up against each other, and finally, help you figure out your own unique blend. Let's get right into it.
All right, first up, the stereotype. Because man, there is so much more to it than just being quiet.
I mean, ask yourself, have you ever just assumed someone was totally antisocial because they dodged a massive 100-person party? Like maybe they slipped out the back door like a ninja? We have this incredibly persistent habit of lumping anyone who isn't the loudest person in the room into one neat little box labeled shy. But the data actually shows that this assumption completely misses the mark.
The real truth is, introversion exists on a highly complex, diverse spectrum. You could have two introverts who act totally differently, and it all comes down to their internal motivations. Some actually love people but just need alone time afterward to recover. Others might avoid people entirely because of anxiety. Some are just super imaginative and live in their heads, while others just like to take things slow. So being quiet, that's literally just the tip of the iceberg. What really matters is the engine driving it underneath.
Moving on to our second part, let's contrast social and anxious introverts. These are two totally different worlds.
So, the social introvert. This is probably the classic image that pops into your head when you hear the word introvert. But the absolutely crucial distinction here is that they seek solitude without actually fearing social interaction. A social introvert might be totally comfortable chatting up strangers. Honestly, they might even be the life of the party for a bit. They just don't want to do it all day long. They don't dislike people, they just prefer deep, meaningful hangouts over nonstop superficial socializing.
Does this sound like you or maybe a friend? They're the ones who will happily turn down a massive, chaotic gathering to just stay home and read. Or maybe they opt for a quiet evening with just one really close friend. And here's the thing. When they say no to an invite, it is not out of panic. No way. It's just a calculated decision to save their energy. They're choosing solitude because they genuinely love it and literally need it to recharge their batteries. But then, on the flip side of that coin, we have the anxious introvert. For this group, the urge to withdraw actually overlaps with symptoms seen in social anxiety. The big difference here is that their withdrawal isn't driven by some peaceful preference for solitude. It's driven by an active fear of the social setting itself. Emotional discomfort is the primary engine running the show here. Have you ever found yourself lying awake in bed at 2 a.m. agonizing over a 3-minute conversation you had hours ago? If so, you might relate to this. Anxious introverts are totally plagued by overthinking. They are highly focused on what others think of them, and they carry this deep-seated fear of embarrassing themselves. So they aren't staying home to read a book in peace. They're staying home to avoid the totally exhausting nervous energy of navigating social judgment. This comparison perfectly nails the stark contrast. The voice saying, "I'd rather stay home tonight," is a voice of preference, a choice made just for comfort. But the voice saying, "I'm scared I'll embarrass myself if I go," that is the voice of fear. From the outside, the result is identical. Both people are staying home on a Friday night, but their inner realities couldn't be more different. Just imagine this painful inner dialogue. Everyone probably noticed how awkward I was. It's that relentless self-doubt, that inner critic endlessly asking, "Did I say something stupid?" long after everyone else has forgotten about the conversation. It is an incredibly exhausting way to navigate the world, which makes total sense as to why they just choose to withdraw. Okay, let's shift gears to part 3, thinking and restrained introverts. This is where things get really inward and paced. Meet the thinking introvert. These folks are absolutely captivated by what is going on inside their own heads. They're constantly daydreaming, analyzing ideas, and building complex fictional worlds in their minds. For them, being an introvert actually has almost nothing to do with avoiding people. It's just that their internal landscape is so loud, colorful, and wildly interesting that it constantly demands their attention. And because they're so dialed into their own thoughts, they're not necessarily antisocial at all.
Instead, they channel that internal focus to absolutely crush it in highly creative fields. We're talking writers, philosophers, designers, and innovators. Their ability to just mute the external noise and reflect on life gives them a massive edge in abstract problem solving. They don't just see the world as it is, they're busy imagining all the incredible scenarios of what it could be.
Finally, we have the restrained, or sometimes called the inhibited introvert. Now, this one is less about social preference and way more about just taking the time to feel ready in a new environment. It is all about pacing. When they walk into a room, they're going to quietly observe. They'll listen way more than they talk, just kind of taking the temperature of the room until they feel totally comfortable and gradually start to engage.
And people constantly misread them as being shy, aloof, or just completely bored. But that's totally wrong. Their actual motto is just to carefully consider all their options before jumping into the deep end. They hate feeling rushed and will avoid impulsive decisions at all costs. Basically, it's think first, act later. It's a highly deliberate, measured approach to life. So, moving to part 4, let's pull all these fascinating dimensions together and really look at their core motivations side by side.
Think about how wildly distinct these motivations are when you line them up. The social introvert is managing their level of stimulation. The thinking introvert is managing their imagination. The anxious introvert is managing fear. And the restrained introvert is managing their pace. This proves without a shadow of a doubt that the exact same outward behavior, literally just being a quiet person, can stem from 4 completely different underlying drives. It's fascinating, right?
And that brings us to our final section, your unique introvert blend. Because let's be real, you're probably not just one single type. These categories, they are absolutely not mutually exclusive. Very few of us fit perfectly into just one pure box. For instance, you might have a dynamic blend where you're heavily driven by social introversion, so you love those small groups, but you also have a massive thinking streak and love deep reflection. Plus, maybe you take time to warm up like a restrained introvert, and sure, every now and then you overthink a chat just like an anxious introvert. We are all a complex, customized mix of these traits.
The ultimate takeaway from this explainer is that introversion is incredibly nuanced. No single type here is better or worse than the others. They are just different lenses for experiencing the world. Understanding your specific patterns isn't about slapping a label on your forehead for the sake of it. It's about honoring your own needs, playing to your unique strengths, and structuring your social life in a way that actually works for you instead of totally exhausting you.
I want to leave you with this. Think about your friends, your partner, your colleagues, and then look in the mirror. Ask yourself, which of these 4 dimensions truly drives the way you navigate the world? Because once you figure out the why behind your quiet moments, those moments stop feeling like limitations and they start becoming your absolute greatest source of strength. So which blend are you?